Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. If you've been following the show for any length of time, you know that it's no secret that we talk about the education here a little bit. We talk about the curriculum, we talk about classroom conditions, all of those things. And there's a bit of an event coming up at the end of the month, October 22nd. There is a big event going on at the Alberta Legislature. It's a rally for education. We're very excited to be joined by one of the leaders of the groups that's organizing the event, Jason Schilling, president of the Alberta Teachers Association. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate that you made time and space for me.
Absolutely. First question, am I allowed to call you Shildog for the duration of this conversation?
You know, what's funny is someone actually asked me about Shildog just the other day, and they're like, why is your Twitter handle Shildog? And I joined Twitter when it first came out. I actually used to use it as a tool in class because that sort of micro blogging and how to write in a really concise way was a real challenge for students. Shildog was a nickname my students gave me. And so I just made Shildog, not thinking that I would, one day be in this role. And it stuck. And I actually am connected with this student through Instagram. I mean, she's, I think, 35, 36 now. And it should be mad I just said her name out loud or her age out loud. But she said to me one day, she's like, I love the fact that your Twitter handle is still the nickname that we gave you in grade 11, 14 years ago. And so it's just, to me, I'm a teacher. I love working with kids. I love my students. And this was the nickname that they called me. It was all around that time of American Idol, and Randy Jackson called everybody dog, if you remember that. And so we called everybody dog all through the course, and Shildog just stuck. And just generations of kids through the school that I worked at. I was there for 17 years. It's just, oh yeah, we call him Shildog. And yeah, that's sort of the genesis of it. That people think I'm trying to be a smart aleck, but I got it from my students and it just stuck, right? So, but you can call me Shildog. You can call me Mr. Shildog. You can call me President Shildog, or Jason is fine too.
I think President Shildog has a certain quality to it. But before we get into the rally and the impetus for it and all the reasons that it's important, you mentioned that you're a teacher. You mentioned that you've taught before. So before we get into all of that, can we just talk for a sec? Who is Shildog?
Well, there we go. I've been teaching for my whole life, right? It's essentially, I went to University of Lethbridge down there to their program, the education program. My parents were living in Alberta, born and raised in Alberta, right? And so they had moved. Dad sort of retired. They moved out of province, and I just stayed in Lethbridge, and I started teaching for Palliser Regional Schools. I taught in Vulcan for a couple of years, and then I transferred to Kate Andrews High School, which is just outside of Lethbridge in Coaldale, and I taught there for 17 years before I moved to Edmonton to do this work as president. And I taught English, drama, I taught science for a while. The hardest thing I ever taught, Phys Ed 10, and I also taught psychology and that as well. And balancing out those teacher duties with the work and the roles that I've held in the association as well.
Okay, was Phys Ed 10 the hardest because of the economical component?
Part of it's because wasn't my major, right? And so to teach something, but my principal was really funny. He's like, well, you run, you work out, it should be easy. And and the curriculum is, I run and I work out, but I don't know the rules to lacrosse. So I, spent a lot of time, a lot of prep time, a lot of time on the weekends and the evenings. I brought in a lot of guest speakers. But the kids were always like, this isn't the Olympics. Because I really wanted to sort of promote that idea of physical health beyond high school, that we will, to be healthy throughout your entire life, and that you can, build these base skills for them. But when it was a large class, like I had 38 kids, and it was just, a lot of skill. Some kids, when we did baseball, it was interesting. Some had never worn a baseball glove before, and some had been playing baseball since they were little. So that trying to bridge that skill level with those kids was really challenging sometimes. But it was difficult because it was just, it's not drama where I could just come in and be like, okay, here we go, right? Or an English plan, let's read Macbeth, right? But it was good. I enjoyed the challenge. I liked it, but it was definitely difficult.
And that was before the budgeting component was included in Phys Ed, I imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, and I had a lot of support from the phys ed department, and I was able to order things that I wanted to get in as a school. We sort of had site-based management in my district, so we were able to do that. But this new budget, the new funding formula, I don't know what it would allow for the flexibility and the things that I benefit from that a while ago. So,
I'm just trying to make a curriculum joke is all that I'm after here, but
oh well,
because I had my youngest my eldest is now in the range of the new curriculum for the phys ed, and
oh okay, yeah.
we got to do the orientation, and the teacher was incredibly professional and gracious, and I just about fell out of my chair laughing so hard because of how perfectly she balanced it when she was talking about the fact that the budgeting and the financial knowledge is now included in the
Oh, I get your joke now. There you go. Sorry, it took me a moment to pick that up.
They're always funnier when you explain them.
That's one of it's one of the things even through our analysis of the curriculum when it first came out was that marriage of phys ed and wellness and financial literacy. Like a lot of people were shaking their heads about why do those things connect together. And I know a lot of the critique I got from, that was shared with me from my colleagues around the physical fitness and the wellness, age appropriateness, grade appropriateness, was that a lot of the phys ed was like desk oriented kind of work. The kids need to get up and move. That should be the whole point of it. And so I know that teachers are struggling to find that balance and to make sure that they're doing the right thing by their students.
Okay. Well, now that joke's out of the way.
Sorry, I'll drink some more coffee and I'll try to pick up
That's
what
cool.
you're laying down.
So there's a lot to talk about today. I mean, one of the things that I think is that I'd like to kind of start with is over the last couple of years, we have heard here, and I can only imagine what you've heard on your end, repeatedly that the working conditions for teachers are, I'm going to go with challenging, and I'm probably get some comments on that because I know that I'm understating it grossly by saying that. What are some of the things that you're hearing about that the teachers are concerned about? And I'm going to use this as an inroad into talking about why the rally is a thing, hopefully.
No, that's a great question, Nate. And yeah, challenging is probably an underestimation of a word, and it's been difficult. And there's a lot of concerns that are coming out of just even the last couple of years that through the pandemic, but a lot of those challenges and those concerns existed before the pandemic had come about, and were probably amplified, if not to a certain degree, through the pandemic. And so things that I hear from teachers right now, sort of in this sort of pocket of time of where we are now, class size is definitely a factor, especially in certain jurisdictions across our province. We've got classes that are in the 30s, they're in the 40s in some areas as well. Government no longer collects class size data. They stopped doing that in 2019. So we've been sort of through our surveying with our membership, asked them about their class sizes and try to get a representative idea of what's going on in the province. But beyond class size, what we're seeing a lot is, we call it composition, class composition, or the complexities of our students' needs is another way to phrase that. So students are coming to school with, social economic needs. They're coming to schools with, needs through their learning, or they might have linguistic needs. They might have, speech therapy. They might need occupational therapy, that sort of comprehensive school approach to that. So teachers are seeing a huge impact in their classrooms with the needs of their students. That was amplified by the pandemic. So you think of the anxiety of the pandemic on students and the people working in the buildings with those students, but also we've had a really couple chaotic years of school where you're online, you're in person. You just said you've got kids who are in school, and it must have been challenging for you as a parent to, they're at school, they're at home for a couple of weeks because things are shut down. We're going back to school. We're doing that sort of back and forth, and the anxiety of COVID sort of layered on top of all of that. Has created even more needs within our schools, and we're not seeing the support that's needed for them to address, the mental health needs that they may have, the learning needs. We've seen class sizes grow, and students' needs are also teachers' needs. So teachers, as a teacher working in my classroom, I need certain things to meet my students' needs as well. And so I'm hearing a lot about that. And then let's add in the curriculum to this conversation as well, because now you have teachers who are working with K-3 curriculum, K-6 and phys ed, and financial literacy. Some are also piloting the new 4-6 for math and English language arts and science and the Francophone and French as a second language arts curriculum. There's a pilot out there with those as well. There's not enough runway with this. The final draft of this was released in the end of May. Teachers did not have the time, nor did boards for that matter, to get resources in place, to have time to do the professional development that they needed, to look at the curriculum, to assess how am I going to teach this with my students who are coming in with these complexity of needs. What resources are available to them? Do they work for me? Do they work for my students? Are they contextually appropriate? Are they grade appropriate? Are they age appropriate? Are they Eurocentric text? Like, we want to bring in, part of the TQS, the teaching quality standard, is to bring in Indigenous cultures and ways of knowing into our curriculum. And teachers need time to do that in a way that is meaningful. And that time wasn't there. So teachers sort of started the fall, and now you add in assessments to this as well. And so there's a mandatory level of assessments that are taking up a lot of time and from the government, and then school boards are adding their own assessments on top of that. So now we're, I think, over testing or over assessing our students when teachers really just want to teach with their kids in their classrooms and do that work.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the rumors about how easy teachers have it are entirely true.
And it's funny because I often get messages like, well, then shut up if it's too hard and do it. But teachers teach because they care about kids. They care about what they learn. They care about their growth. They care about everything about their lives. And when you hear teachers saying, I need things to meet my students' needs, we should be listening to what they're saying and taking that seriously. We've not seen government do that through the course of the pandemic, and then not provide a funding formula that actually funds kids properly through school. Like, they're on this 3-year weighted average rolling thing that really will fund a student over the course of a couple of years. Well, kids need to be funded the moment they walk into that building. Day one, they step into that school, they need the funding right there at that moment that follows them throughout the school. But the government has done this weighted average rolling thing that has, larger boards who have high enrollment seem to get penalized from it, and smaller boards who have a declining enrollment. It sort of saves off a little bit of, the problems, but it just pushes it. All it does is kick it down the road.
Let's get into, you brought up the curriculum there. Mm-hmm. That's solved, right? Like, we don't have to worry about that anymore, or
no, we have to worry about it.
Okay,
right? We
so
don't
we have to worry about that.
We'll always worry about curriculum. And part of it goes back to, the whole notion of replacing the entire curriculum for K-6 in every grade at every level is a huge, complex task. Traditionally, curriculum was done one grade at a time over the course of 3 years. Right? It was written, it was viewed by professionals and teachers. It was properly field tested to make sure it worked. It was resourced. You looked at the assessment, and then it was implemented and then looked at again to make sure that what was working. And teachers will tell you what will work and what won't work. So to run this through, like has been in the last couple of years, has been a way that, teachers, when I talk to them, do not want to fail a generation of kids. Right? They want to get this right. And it's been pushed through. And, you've got the K-3, but we're also talking 4-6s in development. And then there's plans for 7-9 and then 10-12. Like, this is going to be curriculum, an ongoing conversation that we're going to have for many, many years. And we need to make sure that, I always look at it in two parts: process and content. We have to get the process of it right before the content of it is right. And the process is where we really need to get back into making sure that teachers are at the table, that the association's at the table, the way that it used to be done in terms of, and I don't like we got to do it the way it always used to be done, but sometimes it works, right? And you don't get a world-class education system like Alberta is without having really good people working on curriculum. And now we've got this curriculum that a lot of people are concerned is going to set us back.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely caught the little pause before you said Alberta is, and I can't help but wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that multiple jurisdictions who have previously used Alberta's curriculum because it was world standard have gone, oh, we're gonna go over here now.
Well, yeah, and part of it too is that I still believe it is. And I believe it is for the fact that I believe in my colleagues who are working in schools, right? Those teachers working in those buildings with those kids and the other people who are working in the building, because Lord knows from working in a school my entire life, it's not just me, it's the EAs who work with me, it's the librarian, it's the office staff, it's my administrators are all working together on this, right? They're going to make the experience for kids the best that they can be. And so, yeah, other jurisdictions have left, and they're going to, when, the PISA results or other standardized test results come out, say, oh, these numbers are really low, look how this is failing. But you can't look at an assessment that's, done at one moment in time and say, this is the whole system, the entire system as a whole. Because the assessment, when you work with kids, is really broadband. I do a lot of things in my English class that are not the diploma exam at the end of the year that I use to assess my students and what they know and what they can demonstrate and how they demonstrate that. So you don't have the diploma exam where you get to do a speech, right? You don't get to do visuals for the diploma exam, but that's part of the curriculum that they're not tested on. But then we judge them based on this one moment in time. And a lot of kids like me were not test takers in school.
Well, I mean, standardized tests have such a good reputation and so much evidence backing them. I don't think that there's any concern. Heavy on the sarcasm there for anybody who's just listening to the podcast version. Okay, so your optimism is inspiring, but there's some new challenges that are also sort of raising their head. I don't know if you've heard, we have a new premier, and she's got some ideas on education. I'm curious, does the ATA have a stance, or do you, speaking only for yourself, have a stance on the idea that Ms. Smith has pitched about the micro schools where one teacher can set up a school in their house and teach all of the curriculum and teach all of the courses to 5 or 6 kids who are funded via vouchers?
Yeah. So the association by nature, we're set up through legislation and we're policy driven. So we have all sorts of policy about all sorts of things that's created by teachers at our annual general meeting. And we do have policy that is against a voucher system. We do have policy that would be against sort of overtly privatizing public education, because it's going to create a system of inequality. It's going to create a system of have and have nots. We would, the notion of a micro school, I can't conceptually actually figure out how that works. But we would be opposed to something like that. We would be opposed to things that undermine the needs of our students and a public education system. And I know we have a new premier who's only been in office for a couple of days. And there's always going to be an element to me that's optimistic, right? But there's also a huge element to me that is cynical, right? And so I sometimes wear my cynicism on my sleeve too often, and sometimes I wear my optimism on my sleeve too often. But I have to be optimistic that we can try to make a change to make things better for kids and teachers in schools, so that we can make things better in our province, right? And so it's a little bit, I feel like we're kind of in this sort of void right now of, we have a new premier, but we don't know who the new cabinet is. We don't know exactly, I always find through campaigns that, and your viewers might, or you might have, this sort of same impression, we'll float all of these ideas out. We're going to do this, and this. And then I'm just like, well, okay, well, which one are you actually going to go with? Like, which train are you going to get on before we watch this train wreck? But which train is going to leave the station? Is it micro schools? Is it vouchers? Is it we're going to go back and look at the curriculum, because when they were at our summer conference in Banff, they all talked about this idea that we need to look at curriculum again, that maybe the process wasn't done as well. And I'd be like, yep. And so, part of it is we need to see a little bit of what's going on. And then our what I also heard in Banff was all of the candidates, including the new premier, talk about the idea that we need to engage again with the association in conversation. We need to engage again with teachers in conversation. And as I said to them in Banff, and I will carry this through, I will hold them to that. You said in Banff that you would do this, and you would do that. Now we've got it on tape. Let's watch and see what you're going to do, and hopefully try to work together to make things better. That whole conversation we had about the concerns that teachers are having in classrooms, that needs to be addressed. We need serious answers to these serious things that we're seeing in schools and address them to make lives better for our students and the teachers and the others who are working in the buildings with those kids.
One more thing before we get into the rally, you guys just scored yourself a contract. So I know that there was a lot of controversy around that contract, and there certainly was some tension over what was allowed to be negotiated in the contract, what the government refused to negotiate in the contract, class sizes, How is that sitting? How is that going?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. It was a controversial thing for our members, and we know that the vote was close at the end, and there's still issues in there, some that can be addressed in the next round of negotiations. But there's some of those things too, like class size, for instance, could also be government willing to do something about it on a policy level. Right. They could be willing to do something about it in, setting up a budget thing that addresses class size that says, okay, we're going to put caps here on these things. It could be in a collective agreement, but it could also be in other areas as well. And so that's a little bit of what this rally is. And then our broader campaign towards the election in 2023 is talking about class size and the needs of our students and classes, and the people who want to be the MLAs who are going to make the decisions about the public service, including healthcare and other aspects as well, that they actually have a definitive idea and a plan that is informed and will work. Right? We can't have people who will be like, oh, well, we're just going to do this Band-Aid approach to something. Well, our systems, because I know you work in healthcare and work in education, those systems don't need Band-Aid fixes anymore. They need things that are going to actually address the concerns that people are expressing and fix that. And I think, that was part of the frustration that came out of the negotiations that once again, that was not there. And I used to chair the bargaining committee before, and before that. And part of that is the legislation in itself is a little bit, I wouldn't mind looking at that legislation and seeing how improvements can be made to that so that the bargaining process is a lot smoother.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take the healthcare metaphor just a little step farther. I don't know if you saw the Twitter thread that we put up probably about a year ago, where teachers were anonymously sharing their experiences and their frustrations. And it is beyond my comprehension how anyone in government can look at the situation and read even a fraction of those stories and respond with, here's a Band-Aid, when very clearly what's needed, almost literally in some cases, is resuscitative measures. So let's talk about the rally. What's the story with the rally? What's going on? Are there going to be balloons?
There might be balloons. I'm not going to bring one, but there could be. I don't know. So the rally is on October 22nd, and it's part of sort of a let's talk about the rally, and I'll talk about the broader campaign in of itself. So October 22nd at the Legislature grounds, the association is organizing a rally with assistance of, the district representatives, my colleagues on council, our staff, local presidents from across the province to bring teachers. It's in partnership with the Alberta School Councils Association, so parents are involved with that as well. And we're coming to the Ledge at 1:00 on the 22nd to show our support for public education in this province and to say, we value public education. There are things that we want to see in public for our students and for our teachers in public education. So we're coming together to have this rally to sort of send a signal, share our voice to those who are going to be sitting in that legislature building in a couple of weeks after that, making decisions about it. It's important that for the association and for the people that I work with here in the building and the locals and teachers across the province, that education be a top priority in the next provincial election. And that is sort of this rally is really kind of a kickoff to this broader campaign that will go down through the course of this next year to our election in 2023, if that's in fact when it does happen in May. Like, you never know, right? When the writ could be dropped. We have a set date, but it could be dropped at any, from what I understand, any point, right? But that's our plan. Education needs to be a top priority, and I'll even take that further than saying that it shouldn't always be, a top priority every time we have an election year. It needs to be a priority every single year that we have, that education needs to be a top priority in this province, that it needs to be viewed as an investment, not always an expense. And I always hear this cost, the cost. We're investing in our kids. We're investing in their teachers and their schools. And by way of their schools, their communities as well. It's an investment in all of us to have a strong public education system. So the rally is sort of a kickoff with that. I'm hoping you're going to be there, and we'll see what, hopefully the weather holds up. We've been very lucky with this weather in the last little bit, but that's really the genesis of the rally, is to come together, solidified as a profession, as parents, as people who care about public education, stand together, share our voices, share our concerns, move forward into the fall and then into the spring when we get to election, and make sure that when we're having conversations with those people who are going to be candidates for the provincial election, that we're able to say to them, how is education a top priority for you? What do you believe about class size? What do you think about the curriculum? What do you think about these things? And to engage people across the province into having those conversations, because if we have candidates who become elected into the legislature and they're like, curriculum, was there a problem with that? That's a problem to me. It always has to be a top priority. So,
and I know You've got yourself one heck of an MC for this event. You've got Dr. Carla Peck, who's going to be running the show, and she's a super fantastic, awesome lady, a woman who I think is going to put on a heck of a show for you. But who else? What else can people expect from the rally? Are there going to be other speakers? Are there going to be? Is Carla Peck just going to be doing her bit for a couple of hours, or what can people expect? What's the plan?
Well, I'll be there, and we'll be speaking. And like I said, it's partnership with the Alberta School Councils Association. So their president, Brandy Rye, will also be speaking at the rally and sort of bringing that parent perspective to that as well. Dr. Peck is our MC, and yeah, she's real dynamic individual. I have a lot of respect for Carla and the work that she does. I've done some things with the University of Alberta where I moderated some panels that they did on the curriculum earlier in the year, and then I spoke at some other, like the draft rally that we had earlier in the spring. So Carla will be a great MC. We have the president of the Canadian Teachers Federation, Sam Hammond, is coming to show his support for teachers and education in Alberta. I know that Cadence Weapon is coming to recite. A couple of years ago, we installed a statue at the Legislature that commemorated the 100th anniversary of the Alberta Teachers Association and the contribution of teachers to Alberta society. So there's a statue there just off by the federal building there. Cadence wrote a poem for it. And so he is actually going to come and perform that poem for us. We have some other individuals who are speaking as well. We are still in the finalization of the final program. So I don't want to say so-and-so is coming and then find out they're not and be like, oh, sorry. Hopefully I'm a solid yes for the rally. I will be there for sure. And whether that's a selling picture for some, I don't know. But so we're looking to have really dynamic speakers, inspiring speeches. There will be sort of like a pre-show leading up to it with some music, some chants, some bands. We're looking to really infuse Indigenous culture and celebrate, Indigenous culture and ways of knowing into the curriculum as well. The rally. And so it'll be a great day. And I hope that people come to show their support for public education. We've been putting out information as well about arrangements for park and rides around the city so that people don't have to worry about driving downtown. They can take transit downtown and all of that. And it's all on our website. That is www.standforeducation.ca.
Perfect. And I'm going to ask the question just because I know what some of the comments on this are already going to be. Which political party, if any, is sponsoring this event?
Yeah, we're nonpartisan by policy at the association. We do not donate money to political parties. We do not endorse candidates. And just by coincidence or by design, October 22nd is when the NDP will be in Calgary at their convention, and the UCP will be in Edmonton at their convention. So this is an opportunity for us on the 22nd to raise our voices about our concerns for public education to the people who are at their AGMs, making policy about what their platforms will be in 2023. And if they're like, oh, well, yeah, we think education should be a big priority, then make it a priority in your platform that weekend because you got the power to do that. Right? Yeah, we did. There won't be a political party at the rally giving a speech. So this is for us. This is
Perfect.
for teachers. This is for the ATA. This is a teachers rally with parents, with their students, and people who care about public education.
I thank you for that very generous answer, because one of the things that I've already seen in conversation around this is, oh, this is a so-and-so party event. And I think it's really important to highlight that it isn't. And that your organization is nonpartisan and advocating for public education, access to public education, and the best.
And I'll tell you, as president, I know that my members, like I don't own them, sorry, the members who belong to the association, I know that members of the ATA span the entire political spectrum as well, right? That's why we're nonpartisan. And we've always said to our members that join the political party that you want. Be involved, get engaged, be involved, get engaged with their education platform, assist them in helping writing good policy, but make it about education, make it about students, make it about teachers, make it about your schools and your communities. And that's sort of where we will encourage our members to be involved. Our plan with this platform and moving forward to 2023 is around education policy. It's around funding. It's around budget that's going to come in the spring. It's around curriculum, class size, composition, those things. We've been around for 100 and some years and have worked with every political party that's been involved to certain levels of degree. It's been extremely challenging these last years, and the association and teachers have not been involved in the curriculum, have not been involved in other aspects. And that's why you see so many problems. Oh, sorry, it's not a good English teacher moment. That's why you see so many problems with it, right? Because teachers are not at the table. And we worked as an association with governments in the past, and we will continue to work with governments moving forward into the future, regardless of what their initials are.
I got one other question for you before I let you go, because I know you're a busy man, and I really do appreciate the time that you've been willing to share today. If not that she watches the show, I'm quite sure she doesn't. But if there was one thing that you would want the new premier to hear, if there's one message that you would want people listening to this or watching this to pass on to the premier, if they're not, I don't know, blocked on Twitter or something, what would that message be?
Oh, we've got another hour and a half, right?
Got as much time as you want, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great question, Nate. And I'm going to go back to a little bit of, I do have a level of optimism and hope that we can, this work is hard. It's challenging. It's challenging for everybody, but we have to be able to move things forward in a positive way that benefits our kids and the people in those buildings in our schools and our communities. I've taught in small schools my entire life, but I know how important schools are to larger urban centers as well. So to, the new premier, I'd have to say, listen, we need to sit down and have serious conversations about how we make improvements to public education, that we don't further undermine the public system where the majority of our kids go to benefit a private system. We need public education. Kids need that in their lives. Parents need that in their lives. It's interesting, we had Naheed Nenshi at summer conference, and he spoke to our delegates there about how, the public system invested in him as a student when he was a kid, public schools, public libraries, the YMCA, public transport. The public system invests in our kids, and they're important. They're a future. right? You and I are dependent on the future generations of this province. And we need to make sure that the needs that they have are being met right now. So I would say next week will be telling. We'll have a new cabinet as well. So I could echo this conversation to if we have the same minister or if we have a new minister in education. We need to sit down and have serious conversations to move things forward because people have serious concerns. There's serious needs by teachers out there. They are struggling in a lot of aspects to meet their students' needs. And parents are also just as frustrated by this process as well. And there's been a lot of ignoring people and their needs and their conversations. And that has to stop.
Okay. Anything else you want people to hear? Anything else you want, any ideas you want to float out there? I'm still hoping that there's going to be balloons at the rally. I would love to see a balloon animal.
Well, we talked about, the whole point of the rally too is to be family friendly, right? So trying to get as many food trucks as we can. It's October, it's hard. Some of them have shuttered already, right? But we want it to be, as family friendly as possible, that we all come out and show our support for public education. I think about this often in this role as one of those things that I do. And I'm fortunate in my life, and I always think of myself very lucky to be a teacher, to get to work with kids and to see those moments where they're like, oh, that's how you do that. And having taught drama for so long and directing school plays, to see those kids come out of their shell and be part of that drama production. And they're like, I can't believe I did that. I'm like, I can, right? I can believe you did that because you believe in people. Right. I think often when I left, sorry, this is a much longer question than you wanted, but you gave me the free rein here. When I left Kate Andrews, and I'd worked there for 17 years, I had a student who was, and people have heard me tell this story before, I had a student who was, upset. She was crying a little bit. And I'm like, why? Why are you crying? And she's like, because I just kind of realized that you're not going to be back here in the fall. I'm like, well, yeah, I told you that. And I'm like, are these tears of joy? Yay, he's not going to be back. And she's like, no, your classroom's my safe space. And that hit me right in the feels, right in that moment, right? And I always like to pretend I don't have the feels with my students. Like I'm like, rah, 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 right? But that really resonated with me. And I think about that all the time in the work that I'm doing, that, schools for a lot of kids, it's their safe space. They need this. They need to be supported in it. And that's one of the things that drives me in this work. And no matter what we see coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks or months, next year, we'll still be here. We'll still be fighting for things. We'll still be advocating for things. And we're going to try to make as big of a difference as we can in the election in 2023. And that starts with the rally. So I hope that you were there and the people who are listening to this podcast are there, and they make arrangements to get themselves downtown Edmonton, because it'll be a great day.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this chat, President Schilldog.
And I will also say I appreciate the fact that you're wearing an I Heart Public Education t-shirt. So.
Absolutely, I am. To me, this is such a no-brainer, and it blows my mind that this continues to be a conversation, because I'm going to paraphrase one of my favorite shows. Schools should be cathedrals. Education has the potential to be the silver bullet that addresses so many of the problems that we otherwise throw heaps of money at and make very little impact. This education and public education has the potential to be one of the great equalizers in society, and it is absolutely stunning to me that continues to need to be explained. So yeah, I'm wearing the shirt.
Well, I thank you for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
As always, if you appreciate the kind of content that we're trying to produce here at The Breakdown, we would love it if you swung by our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/thebreakdownab and signed up for a small monthly sponsorship of the work that we're trying to do here. It is because of the support that we receive from our Patreon sponsors that we're able to continually up our game, and it is tremendously appreciated. So I want to throw a big thank you out to them, and you can go ahead and visit that website and join and support us as well, because we need all the help we can get. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for listening and being part of these important conversations. And we will see you next time on The Breakdown.